Hi, everybody, and welcome to the very last episode of Mrs. Mummypenny Talks. Not the last episode of my podcast, just the last episode of season 4, which has been all about celebrating my book. Let me grab a copy of the book, The Money Guide to Transform Your Life. The last chapter of the book is Do What You Love, which is one of my favorite chapters of the book. And I've racked my brains and I thought, who is the perfect person to talk about do what you love what you do? And I immediately thought of TIMI, aka Mr. MONEYJAR. He has a pseudonym name like I do, as just the perfect person to come onto the pod because I love what you do. I know you love what you do, but I love what you do. And I've seen your journey on Instagram in particular over the past sort of year. And I just think it's amazing the information you're putting out there and your attitude to things. And I just think you're a joy to have in the personal finance world. So you had to come on the podcast.
Thank you so much.
That is quite all right. So give us a bit of an introduction to who you are, where you came from, why you're here.
Yep, so my name's TIMI MERRIMAN-JOHNSON. I'm the founder of Mr. MONEYJAR, and it's a financial education platform for people in the UK. And I guess my core mission is to make learning about money fun and accessible for everyone. That's simply it. And I'm willing to do that like by any means. So whether that's social media, in-person events, coaching, workshops, like whatever I can do to reach people and like plant a seed or get them engaged or interested in money, that's what I consider my kind of job to be.
But what happened before Mr. MONEYJAR? So give us a bit of a timeline of like, did you go to uni? Like you worked after uni? I don't even know how old you are.
Oh, right. I'm 31.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, I went to uni. I didn't do anything financially related in uni. I studied law at Warwick University.
You went to Warwick?
I did.
So, right, this is where we start to meander. So my first choice university was Warwick.
Okay. But
I got a B for maths rather than an A. So they turned me down. I was meant to do the Morse course, maths, operational research, statistics and economics at Warwick. Yeah.
Oh, and it's really tricky when that happens. So although I did get into Warwick, the secondary school I went to wouldn't let you do subjects that you didn't get an A at GCSE at A level.
Right.
And I always wanted to do psychology, but I got a B in GCSE maths and therefore couldn't do it at A level. And then lots of the unis that I was looking at that did psychology required you to have this maths A level, but I didn't do it. And it's just super strange because now I'm an ambassador for Numeracy. So I don't know if you're listening to this, just life is very unpredictable.
Yeah, do you know what? I whenever it comes around to A-level results day, I always tweet Warwick every year and say, look what you missed out on. You could have had me as your alumni, and now Brunel University has me in that group. And like it was the difference between an A grade and a B grade, and they just wouldn't let me in. But you know, it's one of those forks of life, isn't it?
Anyway. So yeah, I did law at uni, and then I left and I worked in marketing and PR for a few years around a couple of companies, mainly with financial clients. So that's where a lot of the initial interest in finance came from. Clients were retail banks and investment houses, and there was all this jargon flying around, and I just wanted to understand it. And I was a young person working in London, paying out half of all my income to just keep myself alive. And so I wanted to like understand how to live better, and money seemed to be a really important part of that. And we'll get onto this in the episode, I'm sure. I kind of had this sense that the job I was doing, whilst I loved the clients, loved the people I was working with, I'm still in touch with many of them to this day. I kind of had this itch that I wanted to do my own thing. And so I left marketing and PR, and I tried out with a first company, which didn't succeed, but I learned a lot from that process. Then I got a job as a finance manager at a charity. And that's when I started building Mr. MONEYJAR. And I was doing the two of them in tandem. And then I left that job last November. So I'm coming up to a year full-time Mr. MONEYJAR now.
Amazing. So, because a lot of people speak to me, I think our stories are quite aligned, actually, where I think I just took a little bit longer to get that strike of inspiration, because I set up Mummypenny in 2013 when I was a sort of senior commercial manager at EE. I spent 16 years in the corporate game, but I had children. So let's face it, that I had most of my 30s were like bringing up children or being pregnant. So that does screw up your career. Let's be honest about it. So yeah, I eventually left in 2015. So that would make me 38. But what gave you the courage and the confidence to actually think, no, I'm going to leave that world behind me and go out on my own? Because it's a huge risk.
Yeah, I think the thing with risks is you need to take calculated ones. So in investment speak, they talk about capping your downside, and that's engineering a risk so that the worst possible outcome still isn't that bad. And in that case for me, it was saving up a year's emergency fund. So I knew that that first company that I started, I knew that worst comes to worst, I would just try it for a year, it wouldn't work, and then I would just go back to work, potentially with some interesting stories about the things that I'd learned over the past 12 months. So when you look at risks in that way, if you put like a bit of a safety net, then you can make the leap. I would have felt way less confident doing that if I didn't have that emergency fund. And I've seen a video of you online talking about the importance of emergency funds and how they give you that financial peace of mind. And I completely agree with that. That's the first thing. The second thing is that I think about just like how ephemeral life is a lot. And I like to learn from people who've done things that I want to do or perhaps haven't. And I just seem to notice that after people did the corporate thing for a while, they seem to break and like do the thing they always wanted to do anyway. So I was like, rather than do this when I'm in my like 40s, 50s with more responsibilities, I'm still quite young. You know, this is back when I was in my 20s. Why don't I just like give this a go and just see what happens?
Yeah, but it is brave, and I think you have to be a certain type of person, and yeah, I get that calculated risk thing, because like I had redundancy money that funded me. I had 40 grand sat there in my bank account, so that was the ultimate gift. Thank you, EE, for that opportunity. Like I will always say, redundancy, it was voluntary redundancy, to be honest. They didn't want me to go, but I wanted to go. Redundancy is one of the biggest gifts you can get, because it's like a chunk of like up to 30 grand worth of tax-free money. I did have to pay tax on some of it. Yeah, it was an amazing opportunity. Just what I wasn't very good at, and I wonder if I suspect you did different to me, but so I'd spent 16 years in the corporate world, and I had all this money in my bank account, this 40 grand, and it was burning a hole in my bank account, and I spent it. And like I went out and splashed out on a like really nice holiday for my family, like about 6 grand I spent on a 2-week holiday to Spain. I went straight to Prada and bought £1,000 bag. I really struggle when I have like a lot of money sat in my bank account burning a hole, because this is all, we're talking 2015 here, where I wasn't like, I was really good at saving money on a day-to-day basis, but I wasn't that au fait with pensions and investments and that sort of building for the future financials. So I burnt through my money really quickly. Like I burnt through 40 grand, and this is quite embarrassing to say, but I burnt through that money in 16 months. Bear in mind that I also like live in the southeast. I had a husband at the time who didn't earn any money. Let's not talk about that. I didn't have anybody sort of pulling me back and sort of saying, no, Lynn, don't be stupid, don't spend all that money. I literally had people saying, do what you want, Lynn, spend that 40 grand
Yeah.
in 16 months. So it was a huge like you say about the company you set up that failed. It's a huge learning exercise, isn't it? That well, everything's a learning in life, but
I do. Yeah, I think that whilst you may not have wanted to, whilst you maybe wouldn't repeat that now, and whilst I wouldn't want to experience, like, you know, the failure of my company today, we are the sum total of the experiences that we have in life, good and bad. And yeah, it's a bit of a cliche term, but I do believe that what doesn't kill you does make you stronger. You just learn from it, and then you iterate upon the sort of person you were. You said something in your book, which I really liked, which is that you try and make every day the best day that it can be. And I'm trying to do that as well, rather than see my life as a continuum. So almost like year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. I'm actually trying to live the same year over and over again, but just like improve on everything. So it's like a loop, you know?
wow, yeah, that's an interesting theory.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I do a lot of work on mindfulness, which is all about living in the present moment. And oh gosh, I've had so much therapy and sort of experiences over the years, which have, you know, got like, I'm 44, so I've got a few years on you, but I've had some shit things happen in the past. And yeah, all the sort of therapy and stuff has brought me to this. Fundamentally, you're not in control of anything external to you, but that's quite a struggle to actually get your head around. So with mindfulness, it's just all about focusing on the today. Like we don't know, Timmy, where this conversation is going to go in the next like half an hour, so we can't even control that, can we?
No.
So it's you just sort of have to embrace it, that you just don't have that control over external.
I wonder if I think that's like one of the biggest things you have to learn when you become an adult, because when you're a child, you do feel like you're in control of everything, and there's a sort of invincibility you feel. And certainly as I've gotten older, I've realized just like how as you said, so even if you just think about it like cosmically, we're just kind of like floating through space, glued to like a massive rock. Like you know what I mean? Like if you really actually think about it, it can be a bit disconcerting. But I do find it useful to focus on the small things that I can control, like how I want to spend my time, who I want to spend my time with, things I want to learn. And that can be quite empowering if you actually identify just a few things that you can control and you choose to act upon those.
Yeah, I did a really interesting exercise with, so one of my friends is a hypnotherapist, and she helps me with, sometimes I get overwhelmed with life, as many of us do, and she really helps me sort of bring it all into focus. And she does a really simple exercise with me. We just do it on the phone. It's like, right, let's talk about what you can control today, Lynn. So I can control what I eat, I can control what I drink, I can control having a bath, I can control going out for exercise, I can control what work I do, what I say yes to, what I say no to, I can control who I spend time with. And actually, when you build it all up, you can control a lot of things that are you focused.
Yeah.
But you cannot control, I can't control what you're saying and what you're thinking. I can't control what my children are going to do today. I can't control what my ex-husband does today. But if you get overwhelmed by all those things you can't control, you have to bring it back to you. And actually, you're right, the power that you have in yourself. We're getting quite what's that word? What's that word?
Existential.
Thank you. Yeah, we are getting quite high level.
Well, it does tie into the concept of doing what you love, because I think we've all been there at some point, feeling like you're trapped by your job, feeling like it's something you can't control. But I had to, oh, that's my Google speaker. But yeah, it got to a point where I find that taking ownership and you know, having taking responsibility over the things you do in life and the choices you make is really important. So the first thing I had to realize about my job was that I applied for it and I was choosing to go in every day. And in that same way, I could choose not to go in, and that I did have control over what I wanted to spend my time doing. So that's what inspired me to start saving money and to start reading about how to set up a business, like learning all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I personally found that really empowering.
Yeah, definitely. So I suppose, like, go back to the core of this podcast episode, which is do what you love. I think we all reach a point in our lives, depending on what we've experienced, depending on those who surround us, where we eventually get to this point of, I can't do this rat race, this corporate world, whatever anymore. I just can't. Maybe it's health that drives those decisions. For me, it was, I've got 3 children and I am not seeing my boys because I was working like a high-paid job in the city, 4 days a week in Paddington, working 7 till 7 on those 4 days, zipping off to Newcastle every couple of weeks for work, and it was just ridiculous. Yeah, I was earning like a shed load of money, but all that money was doing was sustaining the expensive house I now sit in, and the expensive car, and the expensive holidays, and the lifestyle that went with it. So I had that sort of lightning bulb moment. It was interesting. It was actually a nightmare boss who provided that light bulb moment where she was a woman, and I know not all nightmare bosses are women, but I've always struggled working for women. She was a woman who didn't have children, and she had quite a high profile career. And we sat in a meeting one day where I was crying because something had gone wrong with work and my family, and she was like, "Don't really care. You just need to make a choice between your career or your family." And I've quoted this story so many times, but at that point I was literally like, F you for saying that. I didn't say that. That's what I thought in my head. I am now going to get redundancy out of this company for that one comment, and I am going to choose my family, my boys, and my life. And it took me 9 months to get that redundancy, but I did. Yeah. And so I'm actually very grateful to that woman for that conversation, because she forced that light bulb moment. And the redundancy was the absolute gift, because, as you know, when you start off a business, let's move on to the next stage. I did not make any money for the first, well, I made $5,000 in my first proper year of Mrs. Mummypenny when I ran it full time, but I didn't go out to make a load of money. My main focus for the first year was to get everybody knowing who Mrs. Mummypenny Lynn was, to know what my mission in life was, to financially empower women in particular, but men can join the party if they want. Yeah, so and it just sort of grew from there. And I've spoken to many big money people like Damien Fay of Money to the Masses, Pete Matthew of Meaningful Money. They did the same strategy. They went out from the beginning just with that intention to put content out there to get people to know who they were, and didn't focus on the money. So when Tom Cruise is shouting off, "Show me the money," that's not right. That's not right for the beginning of a business. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that. But
I had a similar trajectory, Lynn. So in my first year of Mr. MONEYJAR, I made a few grand. My second year is going much, much better than my first year did. And I think, like, if I was to advise anyone on doing what you love, it would be to have that cash buffer, like do like savings, and then focus on, see if you can get the Venn diagram of doing what you love and like helping other people to overlap. Because if you're able to do that, really, really powerful things can happen. If you're in a job and you're doing it just to get paid, you're naturally not going to want to get out of bed in the morning. You're not going to be super productive in that job because you're in survival mode. You're going into work every day so that you don't lose your house, and also that you don't so that they don't turn the lights off.
Mm.
What saving up money and then focusing on what you love, or even, do you know what? I think doing what you love can sometimes be, as a concept, can sometimes be quite pressuring to people. So let me even take a step back from doing what you love. I think saving up a chunk of money and then just doing like a year of experimentation, like 6 months, 12 months of experimentation, just seeing like what happens, like where do I end up spending most of my time? Like, do I find myself volunteering for this organization? Do I find myself gravitating towards these sorts of people? When the snow globe of personal obligation and the things that you think you're supposed to be doing settle, you get to come out.
Yeah,
And that's
I love that. That's a great analogy.
Yeah, it's super interesting. So when I left that job, it was just like, oh, right, I'm being added to these WhatsApp groups and I'm ending up at these types of events. I did like a lot of public speaking. Have you heard of Toastmasters?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did a lot of that sort of thing. And I think that's the real you sort of coming out. And then it's very likely that during that period of experimentation, you will stumble upon something that you love to do. Yeah. And then, because so few people, so we'll both know with business, it's like a mixture of skill and luck.
Yeah.
you know.
Can I also say, if you're a nice person and you're kind, you will succeed.
Yeah. It's building relationships and making connections with people. Relationships are the most valuable assets that you can build in your life, not money. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought. Where was I at?
You were talking about oh god. you were talking about the early days of like how you actually build it up.
That's it. So because so few people do this, like because most people are in survival mode, what you will find is that there is very little competition in the space that you're trying to move into.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I was saying. It's like business is a mix of skill and luck.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
You need to know what you're doing, but there's also an element of right place, right time to it. But I think it's a lot easier to succeed in business than it is in a lot of jobs because there is so much competition in jobs. Prior to doing Mr. MONEYJAR, I applied to work in financial roles. I applied to work at like banks and like payment processing companies, and my CV didn't get a look at all. Yeah. And now I'm collaborating in some cases with the very companies who wouldn't have given me a job before.
I love it.
But there aren't hundreds of people going for the opportunities I'm going for now. It's normally either a client wants to work directly with me, or it's like I'm working alongside one or two other people. Yeah.
You are, so you and I know we work in the same sphere, but you are unique. There is nobody else doing what you're doing, because there's so my summary of what Mr. MONEYJAR is so you've got this incredible Instagram account where you produce these graphics where I'm like, where on earth did you get those ideas from? Like, I'm seriously, Timmy, like, what's going on in your head? And it's, but you relate it to things that are very on trend. So you'll relate it to the latest Drake song or whatever, which really, I know, gets you really good engagement because you know your demographic really, really well. And you just produce stuff that is shared by a lot of people, which is the complete game to Instagram success. Produce content that's shared, it will succeed. But you're actually producing stuff that means something and that is landing this message that personal finance is simple. It really is as simple as spend less than you earn. Yeah, you can spend some money now, but save money for the future. Try not to get into debt. Like, this is basically personal finance, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that the emotional side is very important as well. So social media course I went on a few years ago talked about what you want people to feel when they view your content. And I think that there are corners of the internet that can be quite negative and quite stressful places. And I don't always get the balance right, but I make sure that if I post something, I am speaking across the table from the person who's doing it, not down to someone. So it's never like, you never come away from it feeling negative. I want you to either laugh or like feel good, or even if we're talking about something that is like not a good thing, I'm there sharing that moment with you. So it's not like, oh, why are you in debt? It's, yeah, we all get into debt sometimes, and this is what happens. So that's one of my personal rules. Just this comes back to the point you made about being a nice, kind person. If you can make people feel good, if you can make people feel important, I think you stand a much greater chance of succeeding in what you do.
100%. So when in my first year, where I earned my £5,000, and I ended up getting into debt. Actually, I ended up getting into 16 grand's worth of debt, 2015, 2016, which ironically is part of the reason why I'm so successful, was coming clean about my debt and then sharing the story and, you know, writing for the FT about it and stuff. But it's yeah, so when I was out sort of pressing palms, having coffee with everybody, like talking to all the brands that I, you know, wanted to align with Mrs. Mummypenny in that first year, like okay, I don't get on with everybody, like, because we don't all get on with everybody, but I am a genuinely nice person, and I am very, that sounds really cocky saying it out loud, but people tell me I am a nice person, so therefore I know I'm a nice person. And I'm just very genuine and authentic. Like, if I don't like what you're doing, well, I'll just unfollow you, to be honest, if I didn't like what you were doing. But if we had like a conversation about something that was a little bit, you know, that we didn't agree with, then we'd have that conversation. We'd just have it out. I'm not going to like slag you off behind your back and do that kind of behavior, which I find there's a lot of online, even in our money community world, because when you are a successful person, which you are and which I am, like jealousy just comes with that. And people I get why people look at me and think, oh, how come Lynn's doing so well? Or how come Timmy's doing so well? How have they got those like ideas and stuff? Surely they're lucky to have done so well. Well, yeah, absolutely, there is a little bit of luck.
There's a degree of luck for sure.
It's talent, and it's hard work, and it's determination. And
so you've used the word success a couple of times, and this is a way of thinking that I only really came into this year when I went to therapy earlier on this year, and like it really changed my life. My threshold, and be interested to see what you think about this, then my threshold for success is way lower than what it used to be now. If you'd asked me about success 5 years ago, it probably would have been the conventional definition. So it would have been around the number of friends you have, the amount of money you have, your job, your future prospects, etc., etc. I now actually think that success is just being alive. If you think about it, there are thousands and thousands of people who yesterday were alive, who today are not alive. I think the the actor who played Gunther in Friends, like died in the last 24 hours or in the last 8 hours. So just like, even the fact that you're just like alive, breathing, conscious, and just experiencing the world in real time in 2021, I think is success, or at least biologically it's success. Because when I went to therapy, I learned about unconditional self-acceptance. And this is the idea that you accept yourself and you love yourself unconditionally, regardless of what you might happen to do or earn. Or it's a really, really difficult thing to practice, because basically when you're a kid, from like the first grade you get, you're told that your importance and your worth as a human being is based upon external metrics that society puts upon you. So I don't really get into all that success stuff. I'm just having fun, you know, like if people want to think I'm successful, they can think I'm successful, but I would think I was successful whether I was doing this stuff or not anyway, if I was just a person who was alive and who was happy.
Yeah, that is Oh, that's such an interesting conversation. So yeah, I've been doing a lot of delving into success as well, that probably just since I've been self-employed, actually, because yeah, you have this, my definition of success, right, and which goes back to a conversation I had with a boy I did A-level maths with. He was like, let's have a competition of who can earn 100 grand first. And it was a boy saying it. So that was my first, right, if a boy's saying this to me, then I'm going to beat you and I'm going to get first. I'm very competitive. But I was cleverer than him, right? So I was like, I'll get there first. I didn't get there first because children happened, my career stalled throughout my 30s. Then I set up my business where I earned 5 grand in the first year, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, my view of success was very much linked to money. But I have this, so I've done some very specific money sort of psychology therapy where, so my parents died when I was a teenager, and money and security, both of them, yeah. 16 for my mum and then 19 for my dad. Okay. So my security was ripped away from me, but I still managed to get good A-level grades, apart from my maths that I got my B rather than my A. I went off to uni and I studied maths. I don't know how I did that. I really do not know how I did that with what I went through, but I have as just inner strength, which got me through it. But yeah, so my money as success has always been very important to me because money was just ripped away from me. So as soon as I graduated from uni, I literally went out and got the best job I possibly could. Like went to HSBC, was earning like 25 grand a year then this was 1999. So to earn 25 grand a year then is a lot. Yeah. And then I chased the money for the next 16 years. And then it was that point of, no, money's not the thing, because I've now got the next generation of children. And at the time, my boys were 1, 4, and 6. So they were still quite little. And it was like, no, you've got to be there for them. And Lynn, you're not doing what you love because you're just making money for the shareholders of EE and Tesco's and HSBC, all these big companies I work for. And so that's when my definition of success changed.
Yeah, if money was success, then you could take everyone on the planet, all nearly 8 billion of us, and you could take the lowest earning person and the highest earning person and just grade them like a ruler and just be like, oh, this is the most successful person because they earn the most. This is the least successful because they earn the least. The person who earns half of the person who earns the most is 50% as successful. Like, it doesn't, like, success doesn't work that way. We're alive. We're experiencing what it means to be alive in the world today. We're connecting with people. We are hopefully, impacting the world, making the world a better place. That's all it comes down to. I'm also under no illusions as to things like legacy as well. I think that most people will be forgotten about within a couple of generations. No matter how much money you earn, or no matter how much success you achieve, you will at best end up as a road sign or a statue or a bench. So, unless you're Jesus or something, and then people debate whether you even existed or not. So if you just focus on today, and on what you want to do, that to me is like all that matters. People want to be jealous, they can be jealous, but if you're being jealous of other people, you should take those calories and use it to focus on doing what you love.
Amen. Yeah. It's I feel very privileged, and I'm not going to use the word, when actually, go back to luck, I'm not sure too much of it is to do with luck, because I know I've got to where I've got to because of hard work, but I do also feel very privileged that I suppose the things that have happened to me throughout my life have just led me to this place. So yes, I had a very traumatic late teenage life, but what that did was sort of just put this power, this self-belief and this independence inside of me So therefore it's like I'm grateful that that experience happened to me and made me the person I am. It has negative repercussions as well. Like, I've needed therapy my entire adult life, and I will need to carry on having therapy until the day I die.
Yeah, can I just say something? Like, I think that, like, the fact that you're talking about therapy is awesome. I think that everyone needs therapy. Like, everyone with a brain needs therapy, because, you know, when we think about therapy, we think about it as a response to something. So you're depressed, and so you go get therapy, but we don't think about physical health in that way. At least not all of us do. And it's not like, okay, I've broken my ankle, so now I'm going to start working out. You can proactively look after yourself as well. And all therapy really is just guided self-learning. You're with someone who doesn't give a crap about your history, your past, your hang-ups, whatever, and they're trained. They've seen people in your situation over and over again, so they can spot patterns. They can give you exercises to do to help you control your thoughts and your mind state, and like, everyone is in need of that. So yeah, sorry, I just wanted to, like, I appreciate that you're talking about it.
But on that note, therapy is a privilege, right? Because
yeah, it's very expensive.
Like, yeah, I'm very grateful to be able to afford it. But in the past, I have, like, when I was at university, I had a lot of counselling and therapy, because I lost the plot at university. I had a breakdown, but there was angels surrounding me who picked me up and plonked me into a counselling chair, and that sorted me out. Didn't sort me out at all. It's just, you know, the lifelong process. But unfortunately, the mental health, and I have talked about this in a previous podcast, because I interviewed my psychotherapist, Jennifer, last year. I'll send you the link to it, Timmy, or I'll pop a link into this show notes, because it's a really interesting interview, and we talk a lot about the state of mental health in this country, which we all know is just a complete mess.
Of course.
At the moment, I mean, always mental health is a big problem, but there's so many people with mental health issues at the moment who cannot afford therapy or help, and they have nowhere to go, because the waiting lists, like, if you try to commit suicide, the waiting list to see a therapist is like 6 months.
Yeah.
And you've just tried to commit suicide.
I can yeah, 100%. I almost feel like the industry needs a platform like, almost, you know, how you can pay for like a gym, like monthly, and then you can just access gym services as and when you need them. You almost need that for like mental health services.
That's a really good idea.
If you are feeling suicidal, or you're feeling, you know, particularly under pressure, Samaritans is a good number to call, because they can actually, they'll have someone on the other end of the phone that you can at least speak to in that moment. But what you're saying is completely valid. It's like, it is a mess here and in the States. I do believe that I read a stat once that suicide is the 10th biggest cause of death there, which is crazy when you think about the fact that it's the wealthiest country on the planet. You would, you know, it's this thing about success again. You would expect that the more people have, the better off they are, but it doesn't always work out that way. No.
But we are, you cover off mental health in your platform, and I cover, my strapline is sort of healthy wealth, body and mind, because I truly think that if you could get to a happy place with those three things, your money, your physical health, and your mental health, you're going to be in a pretty solid sort of state of mind, aren't you? I've been playing quite a lot. I've always been fascinated with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which you obviously know really well, with psychology background. But I posted a graphic of it onto my Instagram last week. It was so ironic, because the day I posted it on Tuesday morning, okay, when I'm suffering from insomnia at the moment, which is all being investigated by the doctors. And I woke up on Tuesday and I felt like absolute crap, and I posted this graphic of Maslow's hierarchy of needs and basically said, look, I'm focusing on level 1, which is food, water, exercise, the real core health base that you've alluded to in your what is success? It's being alive. If you've got your health, you're alive. And then on Tuesday, you wouldn't believe what happened. Like just loads of horrible things happened. And then I have written a blog post actually, which is coming out, which will have come out by the time this comes out. But my sister had a heart attack on Tuesday. And I got the phone call like that afternoon, and she survived. But she actually died. She died in the doctor's surgery. Like, what are the chances of having a heart attack in the doctor's surgery? But she did. And they defibbed her back to life. So she actually died. It just, gosh, it brings back the whole, well, it brings back number one, that my mum didn't survive from her heart attack. But health is number one. Mental health first, then your physical health will come, then your financial health will come.
Then you can live.
Yeah.
I think, you've been through a lot, Lynn, and
but I'm 44. Like most people in their 40s have been through a lot.
I think it's incredible that you've gotten to where you've gotten to, that you've achieved all you've achieved. And I thank you for using your platform to share your story and your experiences with people. There'll be a lot of people that are going through tough times who will find the things that you're saying a huge comfort.
Yeah, but that goes back to probably the reason why you do what you do, and the reason why I do what I do. I just had this idea that I just wanted to do something that would make a difference to people's lives. And because I knew that I understand money, it was the natural thing to start talking about online. And I wanted to reach this huge audience because I want people to know that they're not the only one who's in debt. They're not the only one whose parents have died. They're not the only one who's got divorced. They're not the only one with family issues. And
I do truly think that making the world a better place is sort of so to build upon what I said about success. So I think success is like just being alive, being happy, being healthy. Success is very different to achievement. Achievement is what you do in your life to basically pass the time whilst you are alive. And I think when it comes to the things that you do, doing what you love and making the world a better place are sort of the only two things that really matter. Because for as long as we bring new people into the world, people that didn't choose to exist, the least we can give them is like a better planet than the one that we were born into. And the great thing about doing what you love is when you do what you love, you're going to be interested in it, you're going to be good at it, and the stuff you do will make the world a better place. It will deliver value because you're so passionate about it. That's why I think it's super important. And also it's like the opportunity cost of there's an opportunity cost to not doing what you love as well. As we saw over COVID, the world that we live in today is a result of all of the things we've chosen to put effort into up until this point. So we had a pandemic, and then in response to that, teams and teams of people decided to shelve everything they were doing to develop vaccines, which we have now used to regulate the disease.
Which is it is a miracle, isn't it?
It is a miracle. And it's like if those people hadn't had chosen to do that, if we hadn't had all worked together to stay at home and stuff, then we may well be in the same situation as last March now. So things that you choose to do in your life really, really do matter and really do have the potential to make the world a better place. Doesn't matter if it's just you or if it's a group of people. In your own small way, you can improve the world for the better, I think.
Yeah, that's a perfect place to, I think, end the conversation. I've loved this conversation. I just just think it was amazing. And I know that everybody listening to this conversation will be like, wow.
I hope so.
Yeah, and I think it will inspire. It will inspire. God, I feel quite emotional. Yeah, so right, Timmy, we didn't talk about the numeracy stuff, which we do need to touch on quickly, and anything else you want to talk about to do with you. Because the numeracy thing I'm really passionate about as well, being a math.
Just say a quick nod to that. So I'm an ambassador for National Numeracy, a UK charity which aims to improve people's number confidence, and I'm super excited about the role, because I get to talk. I essentially get to talk about how money feeds into that for the charity, and they're super collaborative, and I really will get to make the role into what I want it to be. Yes. So super thankful to them for having me on board, and I'm looking forward to what we're going to do together. And the very first thing I'll be doing will be next, well, by the time this comes out, it already would have happened, but in the first week of November, it's Number Confidence Week, and I'll be doing an Instagram live with Bobby Seagull. So really looking forward to that.
I was just going to say, your little crew is, because I know all the people in your little crew because I've worked with them in the past. So you've got Rachel Riley and Bobby Seagull. Because I've done some work with Rachel in the past, and she's got a book coming out, hasn't she? It must be in time for that week at the beginning of November. She's got a great book coming out about numeracy for adults, and it goes back to basics of the core sort of numeracy stuff you need to know, because there's so many adults in this country who don't have basic levels of numeracy.
And this often stems back to an episode that they had when they were younger at school, where maybe they didn't do so well on a test, or made you feel like they couldn't understand something, and they sort of shut the door and say, I'm not good at maths, much in the same way that people say I'm not good with money, and then shut the door on that. So but we've seen through our work that you can kind of reel people back in and help them with their confidence on these matters. So I'm doing that. And then in terms of nothing much else to plug, to be honest. I've got a weekly talk show of my own, which I would love to have you on, the Mr. MONEYJAR show.
I would love to be on. That's on Instagram Live, isn't it?
I'm live. And I'm at Mr. MONEYJAR on most social media platforms if you want to come say hi.
Amazing. That was going to be my last question. You need to write a book. Just saying.
I won't say too much, but
yeah, that's definitely on the list. Everybody go follow Timmy's Instagram, because you put all your Instagram stuff on Twitter as well, but Instagram's where the best you is at, I feel. And thank you ever so much for being the last episode of season 4 to go out with a bang. It was an absolute pleasure to have you on. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Cool.